Let's be honest, if you're anything like me, you're probably using AI for, well, just about everything. Writing emails, planning trips, you name it. But have you ever actually stopped to think about what all this convenience is doing to our brains? Today, we're going to dig into how these amazing tools are changing the very way we think and learn. We all love how AI can summarize a huge report in seconds, right? Or draft that tricky email in a flash. But here's the big question. Is it just a helpful co-pilot, freeing us up for more creative, big-picture thinking? Or is it slowly taking over the controls, letting our own analytical skills get rusty? That's the real dilemma we're tackling. So, to really get a handle on AI's impact, we first need to look at a concept that's been around way longer than computers: our brain's natural, and I mean natural, tendency to find the easiest path. And that tendency has a fancy name: cognitive offloading. It sounds super technical, but it's something we do every single day. It's why you write down a grocery list instead of trying to memorize it, or why you grab a calculator for a tough math problem. We're basically outsourcing the mental heavy lifting to free up our own brain power for other stuff. And with AI, man, we are offloading on a whole new level. We ask it to summarize articles, draft our messages, even plan our vacations from start to finish. It's incredibly efficient, and it saves us a ton of mental energy. It is the ultimate cognitive shortcut. But here is the crucial question, right? Is all this efficiency making us smarter and more productive? Or is it creating a kind of dependency that could actually weaken our own cognitive muscles over time? Let's explore both sides of that argument. First, let's make the case for efficiency, for taking the easy route. It might sound a little backward, but there's a really strong argument that getting information quickly and passively can be a surprisingly good way to learn, especially when you're dealing with something super complex. This really gets into that classic classroom debate: passive versus active learning. Active learning is all about hands-on discovery. But passive learning, where an expert just gives you the information, that can be a total game changer. I mean, think about learning something like computer programming. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? You just need an expert to show you the steps. That's passive learning, and it can be incredibly powerful. And this is exactly where that passive model shines. An expert can just download a huge amount of dense, complicated material to you quickly and systematically. In a way, AI acts like this super efficient instructor, just giving us the answers directly. It's fast, and it can scale to millions of people at once. What's the cost of all this speed? What's the catch? Let's pivot now and look at the other side of the coin. The idea that real learning, deep thinking, well, it requires effort. And sometimes it requires us to slow down. Look at this number, -0.68. This comes from a recent study looking at the relationship between using AI and our thinking skills. It is a pretty stark finding. Any ideas what this might represent? So that number, it represents a strong negative correlation. A study published in the journal Education and Information Technologies found that as our use of AI tools goes up, our measured critical thinking skills go down. It suggests that cognitive offloading isn't just some harmless shortcut. It might actually be making it harder for us to think for ourselves. Okay, so if just passively soaking up information has this major downside, what's the alternative? Well, one really powerful technique is called retrieval practice. This isn't about rereading your notes or just reviewing stuff. No, it's the active, sometimes difficult process of pulling information out of your own brain. That little bit of struggle, that's what builds strong, lasting knowledge. And practicing retrieval is surprisingly simple. You could start a meeting with a quick recap of the last one, or use some low-stakes quizzes, or even just pause for a second and ask yourself, okay, what are the key things I remember here? It's a mental workout, and unlike just passively consuming what AI gives you, it builds real cognitive strength. This really gets to the core of a powerful learning theory called constructivism. And the basic idea is that we don't just absorb information like a sponge. No, we actively build our understanding, connecting new ideas to what we already know, kind of like adding bricks to a foundation you're building yourself. And this is pretty much what that process looks like. It's not about getting an instant answer from a machine. It's about that slower, more deliberate process of reading, of thinking, and of making those connections on your own. It's the difference between being told a fact and truly, deeply understanding it. Writer Francis Tang just captures this feeling of discovery perfectly. He says the real joy of learning comes from that aha moment. You know, that click of understanding that only happens when you've done the mental work yourself. AI can give you an answer, sure, but it can't give you that feeling. So we have these two opposing ideas, right? On one hand, the incredible efficiency of AI. On the other, the deep, lasting benefit of effortful, slow thinking. So where do we go from here? Well, the answer isn't about choosing one or the other. It's about forging a smarter partnership between our brains and our tools. So if there's one key takeaway, it's this. AI isn't the enemy. The real danger is our own tendency to just mindlessly and automatically rely on it too much. The goal is to shift from being a passive consumer of AI's answers to an active, critical user of a really powerful tool. So, how do we do that? Well, here's a simple framework. First, automate the boring, repetitive stuff to free up your mental energy for the deep, creative thinking. Second, use AI as a jumping-off point, but always question its assumptions and check its facts. Third, think of AI as a support tool, not a replacement for your own brain. And finally, make a conscious effort to schedule those cognitive workouts we talked about to keep your mind sharp.
And here's some really encouraging news. That same study that found that scary negative correlation, it also discovered a powerful buffer: education. It turns out that a higher level of formal education can actually soften some of AI's negative effects. Why? Because it teaches us how to think about our thinking. It gives us the skills to know when to trust AI and when to trust our own hard-won knowledge. It proves a well-trained mind is still our best defense against mental laziness. So, I'll leave you with this challenge. Instead of asking what else you can offload to AI this week, ask yourself this: what is one small thinking task you can reclaim? Maybe it's writing the first draft of an email all by yourself, or trying to remember a fact before you reach for your phone. It's in those small moments of cognitive effort that we build and protect the one thing AI can never, ever replace: our own intelligence. Thanks for joining me on this Explain.